July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the masters of the wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher programme on Wellington's Access Radio 783 AM, presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
Today we're going to allay any fears you may have of UFOs and their occupants by featuring segments from Benjamin Creme's book published in 2011 entitled The Gathering of the Forces of Light, UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission. All of the following information was sourced from this book.
This is from the preface written by Mr Creme. For centuries, governments have been known to have kept much information, usually embarrassing, from their peoples, thereby consolidating their power to rule. Nevertheless, is it not surprising that for over 60 years, modern governments, aided and abetted by a cynical media, have more or less successfully kept from the public their certain knowledge of the reality of UFOs and the fact of their peaceful activity.
Moreover, some governments have been guilty of denigrating the inhabitants of these non-existent craft, have named them aliens, and accused them of all manner of atrocities against men and women of Earth.
The reasons for this dishonest and undemocratic behaviour are discussed in this book, and the close collaboration existing between the people of the UFOs, our space brothers, and the members of our own spiritual hierarchy is made clear for the first time.
The book is in two parts. The first, UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission, deals with the work of our space brothers on behalf of humanity. The second, Education in the New Age, looks at the changes in education that will be necessary in the coming time, as we adopt new technologies introduced by the Space Brothers, and become increasingly aware of the hitherto hidden forces that underlie our lives.
Part 1. UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission. The spiritual mission of the UFOs is made plain for all to see. Our space brothers' constant battle on our behalf against the effects of our pollution of the planet, especially that resulting from the higher etheric levels of radioactivity as yet unknown to our scientists, and the setting up of the beginnings of our science of the future, the science of light.
In all of this selfless service to humanity, the Space Brothers have been engaged in preparing a platform for the world teacher, the Lord Maitreya, and in setting up the landmarks of the coming new civilization.
On the 12th of December 2008, Share International Foundation released through the world's media the information that a star-like luminary of brilliant power would very soon be visible worldwide. True to the prediction, the first reports of the star started to come in at Christmas time and from all around the world. We related it to the biblical star that led the three wise men, masters of wisdom, from the east to Bethlehem at the birth of Jesus.
We explained that both the modern star and that of 2,000 years ago were in fact spacecraft, the modern star being one of 4 such spacecraft covering the world north, south, east and west, and that the star was a sign, a herald of the imminent appearance on television, as yet undeclared, of Maitreya, the world teacher, and head of our spiritual hierarchy. These 4 stars are gigantic spacecraft and come from the planets of our solar system.
Our scientists assert that human life does not exist on such planets as Mars, Venus, Jupiter, etc. This assumption arises out of their ignorance of the etheric levels of matter. Their technology is still inadequate to measure the full range of the material planes. Had they etheric vision, they would know that all the planets of our system are inhabited, and that many are far more advanced in evolution than we are on Earth. The time is fast approaching when a more open-minded view of life, with its mysteries, will supersede the arrogance of the ignorant to the benefit of us all.
Part 2. Education in the New Age. It is obvious that an enormous educational program will be necessary to prepare humanity for the changes inherent in the new society that will emerge under the influence of the Masters and our Space Brothers. So much that is new will be imparted that the need for interpretation will become urgent. There are many people, well informed and articulate, who can therein find a most useful field of service.
It is clear that education for the New Age must be very different in purpose from that of today. The new education will seek to do more than prepare people to earn a living, as is often the case today. Instead, it will awaken humanity at the level of the soul, the source of all creativity. From that will flow a creative vitality which will be manifested by hitherto millions of voiceless people around the world. The energy of Aquarius, that of synthesis, will draw humanity together into a unity undreamt of today.
Mr Creme continues with a brief introduction to our place in the universe.
Humanity lives not only in this solar system, but also throughout the whole of cosmos. There is nowhere you can go in cosmos where you will not find human beings.
All the planets are engaged in one plan, which also involves Earth. Most people on Earth do not even know that such a plan exists. It is a plan of evolution for our solar system, which works as a unit. We think of the Earth, the Sun and the Moon, but pay very little attention to the other planets of our solar system, except through NASA and the Russian exploits. All the planets have their plans. They are all part of our solar system, and the solar system evolves together.
Not all the planets are at the same point in evolution. Some are very low in evolution. Some, like Earth, are about halfway along the path. Some are very involved indeed. As we have hundreds of thousands of lives to go from being an early animal man or woman to a master, so a planet has 7 expressions or rounds, each of which is millions of years long.
Some planets have completed that course and have become invisible, but are still there in etheric energy. Some, like Venus, are in their last round. Venus is the alter ego, the higher aspect of Earth. Earth is about at the halfway point in the middle of the 4th round. At that point a planet begins to find its course, its destiny. Its people begin to wake up. That is happening in the world today. Humanity is waking up from a long sleep in which it lost contact with reality, with the purpose and meaning of life on Earth. It became deeply embedded in the profound materialism in which it is still involved to this day.
Maitreya has come to awaken humanity. The space people too have come to help and save humanity. They have been portrayed, most particularly by the US government, as bestial beings who destroy carcasses and leave them strewn over the plains and deserts of America, who take people up in their spaceships, perform operations on them, embed little chips that keep the people under their control ever afterwards, and send them back down to Earth. All of this is utterly false.
If one thing is clear from the teachings of Adamski, coming from the Venusian master, from my master, and you will find from Maitreya, it is that the Space Brothers are absolutely harmless to the people of Earth. In fact, their presence here is a spiritual mission. They come to save humanity from even greater pain and suffering than we would otherwise have known in the years since the discovery of nuclear fission.
Since that time we have poured nuclear energy into our atmosphere which our scientists cannot even measure. They do not have the technology to measure levels of matter above gas, the etheric levels, where this release of nuclear energy occurs. the deadliest release of energy that has ever taken place on Earth.
This nuclear energy is in tremendous potency and is destroying the well-being of humanity and the lower kingdoms. It works by depleting our body's immune system, and therefore opens us to all manner of ills that would otherwise not affect us. As a result, we have wave upon wave of influenzas and other diseases that we have less and less ability to cope with.
The growing incidence of Alzheimer's disease at ever younger ages throughout the world is a direct result of the high concentration of nuclear energy at the higher etheric levels, not registered by the instruments of our present-day scientists. This energy plays on the human brain, causing more and more Alzheimer's, memory loss, disorientation, and the gradual breakdown of our body's defense system.
The Space Brothers, mainly from Mars and Venus, are engaged on a spiritual mission to neutralize this nuclear radiation. They are not allowed to completely neutralize all the extant nuclear radiation, but within the karmic law they do so, using various implosive devices.
They neutralize the radiation that we are pumping into the atmosphere from every nuclear power station without exception, and from all nuclear experimentation. All of that experimentation releases into our atmosphere clouds of nuclear radiation that we do not know about. We cannot measure it, and therefore we deny its existence.
Our nuclear scientists believe they have total control of nuclear energy, which demonstrably they do not. They have no understanding of the 4 etheric levels of matter above the solid, liquid and gaseous levels, and therefore a limited knowledge of what they know as nuclear energy.
It is actually etheric physical matter which we should not be using. It is deadly and is increasingly damaging the health of the people of this planet. The people of other planets spend countless hours mopping up this energy.
You're listening to the World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 783 AM. Mr Creme continues. Every planet is surrounded by a magnetic field. It is made up of lines of force that crisscross, and where they crisscross they form vortices. These vortices have been replicated on the dense physical plane by our Space Brothers as part of a new energy grid that Maitreya calls the science of light.
This energy grid, in relation to electrical energy brought directly from the sun, will give us the new science of light, as predicted by Maitreya. It will give this planet, as on other planets, unlimited safe power for all purposes, in ways that cannot be bought up or cornered by any group of men. For obvious reasons, this technology will not be given until we have abandoned war forever.
The Space Brothers do not believe in confrontation. The advice given to the people of Earth is to solve all disputes by cooperation rather than confrontation, seeing the other point of view and taking the spiritual path rather than the path of war.
That is the nature of the Space Brothers. They are so evolved that they never have wars. They are way above that and have nothing but peace and goodwill for humanity.
Most essential today is that we should abandon war forever, come to a cooperative agreement among all people that war is a thing of the past. This will be the basic point of Maitreya's early teaching. He will stress again and again that we have to make peace. Nothing short of peace will do, because we can now destroy all life, human and subhuman, on planet Earth. Maitreya and the Masters come in part to make sure that we do not destroy our planet.
If we did destroy the planet, it would have irrevocable consequences for the rest of the solar system, and the future for humanity would be dreadful indeed. We would have no planet to live on, and would have perpetrated a terrible crime against ourselves and the other planets. We would end up incarnating on some distant dark planet not at all evolved. We would have to start at the beginning, as we were millions of years ago, and take again the long, slow climb upwards. It would be unbelievably painful and restrict our evolution for thousands, perhaps millions of years. Why choose that? Why indeed choose such an end?
The nature of the Space Brothers is to serve. They make great sacrifices to help our planet. In their thousands they have come, and they spend their time and energy helping us in every way. They create vortices which are visible as crop circles, to be sure, but also invisibly across the world in general. The crop circles are only an outer tangential sign of their presence. If you have the eyes to see, this sign tells you that someone of tremendous intelligence, skill, tact and reserve has touched the edges of our garment and said, "We are here."
They could land, make a big noise and tell us that they are here, but they do not. They make contact quietly, sensitively, so that they do not drive us to panic. If they come down and people panic and are terrified, the Space Brothers just go away. If the people are not terrified, if they do not panic, then things might happen. The Space Brothers might introduce themselves, and they have introduced themselves to thousands of people of this earth. These are people who to this day have never mentioned their meeting with a spaceship and with spacemen who came out of it, who spoke to them without seeming to speak, but made them understand that they were visitors from far-off planets come in peace to help us. The people who have been contacted have been afraid to speak, afraid to be ridiculed.
We ridicule those who speak out. We ridicule those who tell the truth, even when we recognize it as such. We tend to reject the truth because it means a change in oneself, in one's way of thinking, feeling, acting and reacting. It means a real psychological change, so it is difficult. It is easier, therefore, to deny than to affirm.
Even when people could affirm, because they more or less believe what they read about the Space Brothers or about the reappearance of the Christ and the Masters, they tend to reject it. They tend to find reasons to deny or belittle it, or to demand proof that will only come through time. They want proof that will only come when the Space Brothers come down, open the doors of their ships, walk out and say, "Hi." Then they would believe, because everyone would see them, and it would be easy to believe. But when the Space Brothers make contact in the quiet, calm and gentle way that they do, contacting one here, two there, those who are contacted do not have the courage to say, "I saw with my own eyes and therefore cannot deny it."
In answer to the question, is there any way in which we can contribute to their work, Benjamin Creme replies,
You can contribute to their work by making them known, by giving a true picture of them and their work. If you can present them as people who do exist, in spaceships that do exist, and that they are totally harmless and peaceful beings who only come to help, you would do a good job for humanity.
How would you recognize a Space Brother if you saw or met one?
You would not necessarily recognize him at all unless he wanted to make himself known to you or he wanted you to recognize him. If he were an undisclosed worker for the Space Brothers, he would just appear as an ordinary man to you. You could not tell him apart as being or not being from another planet.
Another person asks, what does Maitreya need his lightship for? What does he use it for?
Maitreya has a lightship which is often seen as a red or orange-red ball, and it holds quite a few people. He uses it to get about and to show people events ahead of their taking place.
Maitreya lives in a variety of temples in London, spends a few years in each, trains the swamis, and then sends them out to teach all over the world. While he is doing this, he often takes people in his lightship.
The masters see events before they happen. They know these events are going to precipitate down onto the physical plane and be something you read about in the newspapers in 2 days' time, for example.
Maitreya takes people up and shows them the event happening at that highest level, and has done this over and over again. Catastrophes like the blowing up of oil rigs or the ending of a hijacking on a plane.
On one particular occasion, there were 3 or 4 terrorists from North Africa who had hijacked a plane with about 60 people on board, so they had 60 hostages. They kept flying from place to place and no one would let them land for long. They would get more fuel to go somewhere else, but no one would have them in their country. This went on for a couple of days.
The world's media covered the story day by day. The group threatened to kill the hostages one by one until their needs were met. They did in fact kill one man and threw the body out of the plane. In the end, they landed in Algeria, I believe, and were given asylum there. But they were still vicious and, at first, pretty sure that they were going to go ahead with killing all the hostages if necessary.
Maitreya took a group of people in his lightship to Algeria, up above the airfield where they could see the plane. Maitreya homed in on the people on the ground, so those in the lightship could see them as if they were looking through a telescope. They could see the hijackers' expressions. They were very angry and agitated because things were not going their way. By then they did not want to go through with the process of killing all the hostages. At the same time, they thought it was the only way to get what they wanted: asylum with impunity, free from any harm.
Maitreya said to the people in his lightship, "Now watch them. They are beginning to change in their minds. There is a change in their resolve." The people in the craft watched them. The hijackers began to be very divided, and Maitreya said, "They are wondering whether it is worth it. They are thinking, I do not know how long we can put up with this." Maitreya said, "Now watch," and he pointed his finger at the leader and moved it slightly.
Maitreya used a certain amount of energy from himself through his finger and touched the soul, the heart centre in the right side of the chest. Just touched it enough so it did not infringe their free will. They had to be already on the point of giving up. They were so confused that they were beginning to argue angrily among themselves. Maitreya saw that they were near to giving up. He just made certain that it happened, but he would not have done it until they were ready. Inside, they had already begun to give up.
On the ground, the leader smiled, and then they all smiled and did a little dance together, holding each other by the shoulders. They danced around like that on the plane. Then they threw away their weapons, and the whole thing was over. It is for this sort of thing that Maitreya uses his lightship, to take people to events before they happen.
One of my first great experiences, when Maitreya told me that I would have work to do in his coming out into the world if I accepted it, was that I was given a view of how the masters see reality. I was in a great sphere of light. In that light, if I turned my eyes to the right, I could see all the events of the past which were still taking place. Some I recognized as historical events.
If I turned my eyes to the left, I saw the events of the future, as if they were already taking place in front of me. On that highest level, they were already taking place, but had not yet precipitated downward through the planes onto the tense physical plane. So they were not yet events, but would become events.
I saw myself talking to crowds of people. I saw crowds running around the streets, crying with joy that the Christ had returned, and so on. It was extraordinary, as you will see after the day of declaration. For weeks afterwards people will be thrilled through and through. I could see all of this. It has already happened, but not yet on the physical plane. We have to understand there is no past, present or future. There is only this moment now. That is all there is. This exact moment is reality.
Our distorted vision, our illusory make-up, makes us think of the past and the future. But essentially there is only now. That is how the masters see reality. That is why it is so difficult for the masters to give to any event a correct, accurate date in our terms and meanings of date.
Many people are disappointed that Maitreya seems to delay his coming out. He is not delaying it. It is simply that it takes longer for the timing of the event on the physical plane to coalesce with the event that has already happened on the higher level.
We are also responsible for when an event takes place. This is something people leave out of the equation altogether. We have a tremendous input into what happens and, therefore, the timing of any event. If we do nothing at all, then it will happen at a certain time. But if we respond and act on our beliefs, we create circumstances that impose a time factor on that event, either to delay it longer or to bring it forward.
The people who are the most concerned and disappointed, the most longing for action on the part of Maitreya to make himself known to the media, to get on with the work, these very people are the ones who do nothing at all to make it happen. They keep it all to themselves like an inner secret.
We need to make things happen. Man must act and implement his will, Maitreya says. Nothing happens by itself. If we want something to happen, we have to implement our will and not just leave it to fate or hierarchy or time or someone else to do it. We have to do it.
And that concludes our programme today on Wellington's Access Radio 783 AM. Our next one will be on Saturday the 25th of March at the usual time of 10 AM. For more information, please call us on 06 3646 101.
To ask for our monthly free of charge newsletter, to inquire about Mr Creme's books, including today's featured book, The Gathering of the Forces of Light, UFOs and Their Spiritual Mission, or to subscribe to the Share International magazine, the number is 04 234 1133. Or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington. Alternatively, visit the website share-international.org.
You have been listening to Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand. You can listen again to this programme or previous ones online at accessradio.org.nz. Click on Programmes and scroll down to the World Teacher link.